4-part chord is a deeper harmonic stack than the triad. So if the triad is a root, a third, and a fifth, the 4-part chord has added a 7. When you try to establish a library of voicings for these chords, it becomes difficult because by increasing the harmonic stack, you've also increased the permutations on the neck to now include 4 notes instead of just 3. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today you will learn how to create deeper harmonic context by just altering triads. We're going to be taking the triad, the root, the third, and the fifth voicing, and we're going to be altering that to include the 7. And we're going to do that in one of 2 ways. The 4-part chord now has an interesting primary relationship, which is between the third and the 7, because the third has told us whether the chord is major or minor, and now the 7 tells us what kind of personality the 4-part chord has. So we're going to be altering triads to remain 3 notes but to suggest 4. All right, let's get started. Let's alter some triads. We're going to be looking at a 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord. Specifically, we're going to be looking at A7. The dominant 7th chord is root 3, 5, flat 7. I'm just going to leave that up for a second. Those are the 4 notes in the chord. Using these triads with only 3 notes, we have to figure out how to include this 7. What we just found out is that the third and the 7 are sort of the primary relationship. They sort of spell out the personality of the chord, which means that the root and the fifth are sort of expendable. We can jettison those if we need to. So we're going to do this in one of 2 ways. And again, we're going to be in the key of A here, because why not? The 2 ways we're going to do this is either by using the root and taking it down a whole step. Here, check this out. Root down a whole step is at flat 7. Or fifth up a step and a half. So the fifth and the root are going to be used to jettison and replace with that flat 7. We're going to be here on the 5th fret on this E string major bar chord because it divides into these triads pretty nicely. And if you don't know all your triads, you should check this video out. It sort of shows you how to map triads all over the neck. For example, these are all A chords. These are all the ways to play A major on the neck. Repeats again after the 12th fret, but you can take each one of those and apply this method. We're going to do it just on these, otherwise we'd be here for a little while. We're going to do that by separating the guitar into 4 sets of 3 strings and just applying those triads and then applying those 2 methods, lowering the root or raising the fifth. Here's our first one. Here's an A major triad on that high set of strings. It's basically 3, 5, root. So let's take the root down a whole step first. Leave the other notes the way they are. A7. That's an A7 chord. Okay, reset the triad again. Now find that fifth and take it up a half step. 3, 5, root. So here's the 5. Keep the other 2 notes the same. So that's an A7. A, A7, A, A7. Let's go to the next set of strings. D, G, B strings. This is our root position major triad. Root, 3, 5. Let's take that root down a whole step. Keep the other 2 notes the same, we have A7 again. Reset the triad. Find that fifth and take it up a step and a half. Root 3, 5. Here's our A7. So A, A7, A, A7. Let's go to the next set of strings. This one is 5, root 3. So let's take that first example, take the root down a whole step. Keep the other 2 notes the same. A7. You should be able to see that inside your A7 bar chord. chord. Reset the triad. Now let's take the fifth up a step and a half. Whew, that's tough. Sounds good, but it's a little hard to play. A7. Here's the last set of strings. And this is 3, 5 root. Take the root down a whole step. Another little bit of a stretch. A7. Reset the triad. Now take the fifth up a step and a half. A7. There are 8 voicings for A7 right there. That's a lot. Again, you want to probably take this through all the different shapes, but there's a head start. Now I want to show you something else. We're going to take these 3 triads, A, D, and E, and we're going to do the same thing to them, but I just want to show you something really cool. And the constraint is, let's just try to keep all the voices as close as we possibly can. Here's our A chord, A triad. We're going to take the root down a whole step for A7. Here's our D chord. We're going to take that root down a whole step for D7. And here's our E chord. Now this one we're going to take the fifth up a step and a half for E7. So using these triads, look at this chord progression. So I'm just using altered triads, and I've got the entire chord progression inside this 3-fret space on a single set of strings. Remarkable. So flexible, so much potential. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 more things, then I'm going to give you a challenge. If you think about the triad, root 3, 5, and then add the 7, root 3, 5, 7, that's a 4-part chord. If you go past the 7 to the 9, and then the 11, and then the 13, you've got a 7-note stack, right? Here's the trick. The 9, 11, and 13 are actually the notes we skipped before. Root, skip the 2 to the 3. 3, skip the 4 to the 5. 5, skip the 6 to the 7. 7, skip the root to the 2, which is the 9, 11, 13. Forgive my, sort of weird finger shapes here, but you get the idea. So I want to show you how we can even go further than just the 4-part chord. Let's take this A chord right here. Here's our A triad. I'm going to take the fifth up a step and a half. Here's our A dominant chord, A dominant 7. I'm going to take the root up a half step to what would be called the flat 9. Listen to this. So I'm playing a 9th chord here. I'm playing a 5-note stack with just 3 notes. This is the 3rd, the flat 7, and the sharp 9. Pretty cool. Conveying a lot of depth here with just 3 notes. One more example. Here's our A chord again. Root 3, 5. I'm going to take the root down a whole step for our dominant chord. I'm going to take the 5th up a whole step to the 6th, which is actually the 13. You don't have to track very much of that, but listen to this. A, A7, A13. Lots of harmonic information here with just 3 notes. Really, really super useful. Incredibly, the potential's out of this world. Here's your challenge. Take this chord, A major, on the D, G, and B string, root 3, 5, and I want you to turn this into a A minor 7 flat 5 chord. You're going to need the flat 3 because it's minor. You're going to need the flat 5 and you're going to need the flat 7. So how are you going to build that? Meanwhile, once you build it, look at that new shape, look at that new chord carefully, and wait for it. Wait for it to reveal itself, because there's a bonus in there. There's a little Easter egg in there. And I'm just curious to see if you can find it. Turn this chord into A minor 7 flat 5 and see what happens. Okay, so there it is. A way to suggest a deeper, sophisticated harmony by using these small voicings. When I went to music school and I learned this in music school, these were referred to as access chords. I like that. It's like I'm accessing more depth with these smaller voicings. I haven't found any other reference to that name, access chords, but I sort of like it. It's sort of cool. This is very powerful. These small shapes are very easy to move. They're very easy to manage. And when you alter the notes, you can provide and convey and transmit incredible musical depth with just these 3 notes. It's very, very powerful. I've tabbed it all out. That's on Patreon. It's in the link in the description below. If you look at just these A chords, these are the A major triads that are available on the fretboard, and you apply those 2 ideas, moving the root down or moving the 5th up, you get 24 voicings for A7 chords. Did you have 24 voicings for A7 chords before today? Maybe not. Maybe you did. Every single one of those is tabbed out on Patreon. That's in the link below. Go grab those if you need them. I hope this is helpful. Being able to take these small voicings and portray and convey any level of harmonic depth is extremely powerful. So I use this stuff all the time. So do just, a host of great players, piano players. This is really the way to start to get to that level of sophistication without having to map these big, bulky voicings that require 4, 5, 6, or 7 voicings. I hope you find it helpful, and I hope it gives your triads incredible flexibility. Okay, see you next time.